I'm Sean Sylvie, pastor of small groups here at Constance, and I'm here with Mick Casey today. And the topic in this last session in our series on 5 ways God deepens our faith is about how God uses pivotal circumstances. And Mick and I have journeyed for a few years through some men's studies here at church, and I've heard his story and thought it'd be interesting as we think about pivotal circumstances to hear a little bit of what God has done in Mick's life through pivotal circumstances. One of the circumstances I know was it in the late 90s? You had a medical diagnosis.
Yes. Over 99, I was diagnosed with MS. I came down, I had some weird sensations in my body and went in and seen the neurologist, and she diagnosed me with MS. And at first I wasn't really sure what MS was, and when I was first diagnosed with it, and she explained what it was. It's kind of a mysterious disease. There's still no cure for it to this day, and that she says, you know, within 5 years you could be still walking down the street, or in 5 years you could be in a wheelchair. And nobody really knows that. So after I was first diagnosed with it, I like to say I always put on a kind of a pity party for myself. Most people would. I mean, your first diagnosis is something rather critical like that. And the first thing that it kind of woke me up, I guess, more than anything, is I went to a symposium that was put on by my neurologists that they had for people that were newly diagnosed with MS. I started seeing some of the other people that were newly diagnosed coming into the auditorium and taking their seats. And after I seen, I mean, a vast majority of the people that were coming in much younger than myself, wheelchairs, walkers, I mean, really rough shape in my view. And I was ashamed of myself to the point, you know, in God's eyes, because I said, and I was complaining.
Did that experience change any of your perspectives, your priorities, even of kind of how you spent your time,
totally.
Money, and everything?
Oh, totally. And I looked at it. It was an awakening, because I guess up to that point, before I was diagnosed with something like this, I guess I was a traditional, inner selfish person to the point as I was living life, and I wanted things to go my way, and nothing was going my way, and you're looking down on things until something like that hits you, and some people call it an awakening or an enlightenment, but you open your eyes and you say, you know what? Look at all the years that I have had and that I can continue to have, that I can simply walk down the street. And it gives you a whole new perspective on life, because you have opportunities before you that you were blind to a few months earlier that you never really seen.
That's one of the key words, even in our small group study this week. We're going to talk about the word opportunity, and whether we'll pose the question of whether viewing kind of challenging circumstances in our lives is an opportunity, or is opportunity just kind of a positive face on something that's negative. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, your wife lost her job, and then got another job about 2.5 hours away.
Correct.
So you had a house here locally, and you're trying to figure out this whole housing thing. House here, she's working there. How's that all going to work? And what kind of fell into place there? I mean, that you didn't even necessarily plan for this, but this is more of a positive circumstance,
right? And that was another real good example too. My wife was looking for another teaching job, and obviously the job situation was rather difficult, and she came into a job situation that was in southern Minnesota, living in Andover, Minnesota. And this job was south of Rochester, Minnesota. Well, she got the opportunity, and she got awarded the job. I was looking at the costs associated with renting a house in this smaller town, plus the normal expenses that come with it. And all of a sudden, even with her income, the mortgage I was paying in Andover looked cheap compared to what I had to try paying coming up. Unbeknownst to both my wife and myself, she just had a friend of a friend had mentioned, they said, you know, you should go and take a look at this Christian ranch that was located in the small town where we were living. And we went out there and we viewed this Christian ranch, and it's a ranch. I mean, it's 350 acres roughly, and there's 34, 35 horses. There's a large chalet house, and they have a staff that live and eat and live on this ranch of approximately about 15 people. Well, they had one of their guest houses, or lodge houses, I like to call it, and they had that one area of it that was that the owner had for rent. And I pursued and I asked him about it, and come to find out that it was just a very reasonable price that he'd offered, to rent the house for the school year. And I was really taken back because this landlord that had the ranch, when I first met him, as I was telling Sean, and I came in on County Road 6 out of Rochester, and he was pulling up in his wheelchair, and he had just got done practicing for another one of his 100 marathons, wheelchair marathon, and he had gotten this large ranch that he had turned into a 503 nonprofit, had found just a wonderful, wonderful wife, had gotten married, had 4 children, 4 girls, and was doing over 100 marathons. And he went on and he built, as he calls it, the Miracle Lodge, which is a large nonprofit. He put this thing, and why he calls it a Miracle Lodge is he put this multi-million-dollar lodge together with virtually Christian donations that were given to him to put together to help everything from people that needed help and assistance, that he still does to this very day, the example I gave you is I volunteered on the ranch doing different things. We had a local organization, as the Wild Turkey Federation, had gotten together, and at the Miracle Lodge we sponsor a springtime turkey hunt for, we call it the Wounded Warriors. These are warriors, or these American veterans that are all served over in Iraq and Afghanistan, that are also in wheelchairs. They're either in wheelchairs, disabled, missing body parts, that have given the ultimate sacrifice for our country. And the least thing that we could do is we take them on an all-expense paid weekend turkey hunting, and something that these vets all enjoyed is going out turkey hunting. And we did everything from the sleeping quarters at the lodge to meals that were supplied from the Miracle Lodge, to taking them out, volunteers that would take them out, that would guide for them. All they literally had to do is, and we took them to the blinds, is harvest the birds, and they did. And we had it's just a wonderful time. And it's funny what they say about volunteering like that, is how a true volunteer finds out that they get back more than they ever would give. All this came as a blessing to me, because I was in a fixed situation of what to do. It was a plus that she got this employment job, but it was a minus of how am I going to afford, living in a different part of the state, but still maintaining the residence I have. And it was an opportunity that truly came, I think, out of faith, out of nowhere, and the Lord blessed me with it. And it wasn't until the blessings were given to me that I had to step back and think about all the things that were given to me, from the volunteering that I was able to do at the Miracle Lodge, to my landlord there, and with his background, very inspirational. Thankful that I wasn't blind, that I could see the opportunity that was there before me.
So through pivotal circumstances, you had an opportunity to volunteer in a way that you wouldn't have been able to.
Right.
You had to, through pivotal circumstances of losing a job, got to see God provide in a unique way for your housing. And actually, we should say now that you're back, your wife's working actually again locally here, so God kind of continued to work in your life, even after that, kind of arranging things neatly, and God worked through a disease to reorient kind of life and priorities and kind of even how you're spending your time and kind of where you're so going. In your small groups this week, what we're talking about is how God uses pivotal circumstances. You can look at how God in the past has used pivotal circumstances and how you reacted to that. Maybe you're in the middle of a pivotal circumstance. It's also a great opportunity to think about, the reality is that God will continue to bring pivotal circumstances into our lives, and how we're going to approach it. Is it an opportunity to grow in our faith and mature in our walk with God, or is it an opportunity? Mick used the term pity party, but those are two different perspectives. As a group, you're going to this week you're going to continue to wrestle with that.